When you look at stocks on this overall drop, this is kind of what I see in the market right now. Now, this doesn't really go for options. This is more for the stock side and buying the dip on long-term names. But this is really how people act when you look at everything as a whole. We want the big dip, we want it, and then when it happens, we don't know what to do, or we just don't actually want to buy stocks. So when you look at names like Nvidia and what's happening there, I think this is one of those names that the dip is awesome. If you're looking to buy long term, I think you're getting one of those opportunities. If I look at the space of semiconductors, AI as a whole, you're getting massive opportunities. And we're going to talk about a few names from Nvidia all the way to SMCI, in my opinion, my view on what's happening in this space, and the opportunity may be out there for you if you are interested. You had massive earnings with AVGO at the end of this week as well, and we saw how that really impacted the market, whether it be, at least a little bit of a dead cat bounce to seeing that there's still a lot of upside in that specific sector over the next few years, not just, back in 2023, 2024. And that's what we're talking about today. Now, the few things, I'm going to go more into what's happening on the chart. I'm going to go more of what's happening with the news, and then hopefully you can make your own decision from there as well. Now, I do want to say right now, there's good names and then there's bad names, in my opinion. I look at names like Nvidia, and as a whole, when you look at the market and where we're at, I recommend just taking a step back, going to the daily chart. Before we go too far into the video, guys, I do want to say right now, if you are not following, this is our second YouTube channel. I just posted a video over there, and I post videos every single week on this channel. I'm trying to do 2 times a week now, but this is all education into how I trade, what I look for when it comes to futures, scalping options, whatever it may be. Every single week I'm posting videos and education, so you guys are prepared. And then if you're also looking for, you want to take that next step and get more involved and start trading with us every single day, that Discord link is down below as well. You get to see everything that we're doing inside the market, and we actually just updated and added our custom indicator. So every indicator that you see on my screen, it gets sent right to your trading view and locked in, and it's only one indicator, so you don't have to pay for premium or anything like that. So you get all of our indicators implemented on there. You can adjust and take some off if you don't want them. But again, it's all there for you now when you access premium, just to let you know, not starter plan. But you can also get all of our access to futures every single day, stocks we're liking. A great thing we were looking at here on Friday was Amazon. We're looking for Amazon back under the 200, which was under the 200 SMA, under 195.5, and then a breakdown towards 190. You end up pushing below that, and obviously, we saw Amazon on Friday. This thing went all the way down to 192. Contracts went crazy. Didn't quite hit 190, but still was a monster play. Discord's been killing it. So if you want that next step, if you want to take the next step, see us in Discord, see what we're doing, get the watch list, everything like that. It's all set up there for you. Let's get back to the video and identifying what's holding up versus what is not. Now, I also recommend understanding, what's happened when you've broken some of these levels. So, people ask, should I buy Nvidia? The thing that I will say, I'll never tell anyone to buy a stock or do anything like that. I'll just say what I'm doing. But when it comes to buying stock, if you're okay owning this stock and it's down another 30%, then I think you might be at a good place to own that stock. Now, when I look at Nvidia, if this thing dropped down to $90, I wouldn't care. If it dropped down to $70, I probably still wouldn't care, and I'd want to just add more and more at that point. I might be frustrated that I bought a little high, but ultimately I see Nvidia going higher and making new all-time highs, and I don't think the stock really will slow down. That's my personal opinion. I will say when you look at some of these names also, they're more valuable than where you were buying them on the dip in 2022 based off of earnings. So again, it's important that we talk about that as well. But now I look at Nvidia stock and you're pretty close to all-time highs, which is something that you would still like to see. And then I go look at a name like AMD, which everyone on Twitter was in love with. You had every YouTube account and their mom talking about. But again, nothing really happened on this chart. It's pretty abysmal. I mean, I'll say, yeah, AMD is at a support, but you're not really doing much down here, right? There's a massive difference between AMD and a name like Nvidia. AMD down over 50% from highs. Food for thought. And then you go into a name like AVGO that I just mentioned, which still looks pretty dang good also. Yeah, you are, retracing from the highs that you made, but you're still pretty solid. You're not down 50%. You're not even really down 25% from those highs either. So this is still a good overall view to look at of names that are performing better, names that are holding up better in comparison in the space. Now, a few things I'll talk about. I think if you go looking for an answer of why Nvidia is dropping this and that, you'll get a bunch of different answers. You're not going to get one clear and defined answer. And I'm just using this as an example. The reason why Nvidia is dropping is simple. It's because the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq are also dropping. If I was running a race and it was teams of 100, for instance, right? And 90 of the stocks or 90 of the runners on my team were getting, just in dead last place, going very slow, winded, throwing up. And then I had 10 other guys that were trying to lead us, perform very good. Our team would still drag. It would still lose steam. It still wouldn't perform as good if we all were performing to our best ability, which kind of was happening for the past 2 years. And, NVIDIA and AI and semiconductors were still the leaders in that space. So it's important to understand the market is dipping. That is why NVIDIA and these other stocks are dipping. You will follow the Nasdaq. You will follow your index 9 out of 10 times unless there's great, fantastic news. And so I think there's a little bit of a fear out there that maybe this is a bubble, maybe that you're finding some, headwinds. But again, I like these stocks. I like semiconductors as a whole, and I will still remain on that hill. And I will die on that hill that if I had to buy any stocks out there, these are the names that are the best place. And again, I don't really care for these articles. They're saying, well, this is why Nvidia is dumping. Nvidia doesn't have any bad news out there on it. The only really bad news out there right now is tariffs and potentially what's happening between us and China is with those tariffs. We saw China implement 100% tariffs on Canada, which they're not going to do to us. But I think there's a lot of trade war tensions between us and that country that I'd be paying attention to. Now, the other part of this is Broadcom, AVGO with their earnings. Now, it's worth mentioning, AVGO was on a pretty big decline. AVGO dropped from 220 on the 27th down to 180 on the 6th. So within basically 7 days, you dropped, $40 on the stock. Not a good look. From earnings, you ended up, I think in after hours, you were at 210 at one point, but you ended back up at 195 high of day on Friday. So my viewpoints, AVGO Broadcom still has a very good outlook as a company. And again, this goes directly into Nvidia as well. Now, AVGO works more in line with customized chips and things along those lines, but still very important. It's also what they're doing with Intel and kind of stripping them for what they are. Again, makes them a little bit of a better play with expansion as well, especially here in the United States. So again, what I'd be looking for, good looks overall. But what I will say too is it's very important to understand what is happening in the shift that is happening from Taiwan specifically to America. And I would be taking very big advantage of the companies that are shifting specifically to America. So although I love a name like Nvidia, I do believe TSM might be one of the biggest opportunities out there. Honest to God, the investments they're making over the next, 24 months in America specifically are going to pay dividends and they're going to print off this. I think AVGO is a close runner up. But I think TSM is probably going to be the big and clear winner here. And, they might not have as pretty gains as Nvidia did over the past year, but I do think that they are a monster play. It's worth mentioning Buffett is one of the people that bought into this on the major dip that you had back in 22, but he did sell a little bit early. He still made a lot of money, but again, he did sell of his stock, just to make that very clear. So I'd be watching that as well. So I go into TSM, I look at that chart, and again, it's not again, you look at AMD, you're like, holy shit, this is terrible. I look at TSM, I'm like, okay, you're just pulling back. Now, it's worth mentioning, it's very similar to NVIDIA's chart. You're getting back below your 200 SMA. Things could start rolling over. Things could start taking a turn. I acknowledge that. But again, these are companies that you see what they're doing, and you see with high interest rates, they're still making large investments. Those are the companies, in my opinion, that should get you the most excited, that are making moves, that are making big investments, that are making riskier moves, if you will, despite being in a hard to move market. In 2020, 2019, 2021, it was easy, in my opinion, to make big investments because interest rates were so low. Banks were kind of just giving money away at that point. Taking a loan now is going to cost a little bit more and it will put more strain on your company. So when I look at TSM, I'm happy about what they're doing. They're aggressive. I like what I see. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I could see downside back potentially towards 160 on the low end. If that happens, I think it's a monster play. Your previous all-time high from 2021 is also at 140. Now, again, I don't want to say that we're going to those places, but those would be two major buy zones for myself. And I would even start depicting or, seriously thinking about grabbing leaps at those levels as well on a name like TSM. And again, I'm trying to provide other opportunities other than Nvidia that I think are just as good potentially as well. Nvidia, again, I think 98 to 100 is going to be a major level. If you somehow break below that, again, the next level is 89 to 90. And then after that, you have down to like 82 to 80. But it's hard to imagine that we even see that type of a dip. We'll see your below your 200 SMA as well. Now, it's also important that we understand where the S&P is, SPY specifically. I've gone over NASDAQ a lot, and I think there is a bit of a concern here, right? I think there's a thing that, there's people should be more concerned. If I go look on Twitter, I don't necessarily see that, right? I don't see a lot of people on Twitter that are pushing a, hey, cautionary signal right now. Everyone's like, oh, just buy the dip, buy. And I'm like, that's interesting. That's bold. The first time SPY has tested its 200 daily moving average since November 2023. Worth mentioning. So, these are just warning signs, in my opinion. Once you start mounting below your 200 SMA, getting below 565, 563, those are big red flags, and you're going to see sirens at that point. So that's my personal opinion. And if that happens, you have to expect those semiconductors to continue dropping as well. I don't want to just be a technical viewpoint here. I've tried to give a fundamental as well. So things that I'm looking for out there right now. But I just got to say, it's still concerning. Like I look on YouTube, and I don't watch a lot of YouTube content, to be totally honest. Twitter is the only area that I'm able to kind of post my opinion and then go back and forth with that. I have a lot of questions, things along those lines. But, it's just interesting that you're not seeing the worry there, right? That's the part to me that it's weird. Like Tesla, for instance, this is a great example. Everyone was saying to buy Tesla on the dip, and we were heavily shorting it over the past few weeks. You dropped from 455 down to $2. You dropped $200 on the share. And no one's we're not talking a lot about it. And it's just interesting. And I get Tesla may have been a pump based off of Elon and Oval Office and his administration with Trump. But it's just interesting we're not seeing that being pushed out there. And I think when people are leaning really heavy to one side, it usually gets me more excited about the contrary view. And you guys know, over the past 2 years, I've been very bullish on the market. Like if you've been on the channel, Tyler has been a mega bull, right? Past 2 years, basically. And this has been the first time that I've really leaned more towards the fence of bearish, or at least a righteous pullback in the market, right? You even have what's happening with Bitcoin and what's happening with, the Trump administration, and it's turned out to be kind of right. There was this expectation that Bitcoin and the crypto reserve was going to be awesome, and now you're just rejecting at previous lows. You're probably going to break. I think you're going down to 74K, right? I think MicroStrategy is presenting itself as one of the best shorting opportunities. Once we've already shorted this down to the, to the pits, back below 280, 281. It's time to hammer, right? So again, what I'm looking at, what I'm looking for there. I told you guys about SMCI. Look at that one, but I get a lot of hate for some of the videos I make too. Like I said, it's tough here on the channel sometimes. And, I posted right here 10 days ago, right? SMCI's report, watch before Nvidia stock earnings. By the way, SMCI is a scam. Go watch that video if you need to. This is the one, right? I was very clear that 10K report was trash. There was nothing good about it. Everyone was pushing it to buy. It's this, it's that. And I'm not gonna lie, near $30, I could see maybe justifying a buy. I see the risk to reward. It's it's a sketchy play. It is a sketchy play, but I could see that potential coming out there. But buying above the 200, I told you guys it was what it was. So again, when I look at these things, I think that you just need to be careful who you're watching and the aggression that you're taking on the market right now. Over the past 2 years, it's been a bull market. It's been flat out a bull market. Trump is shaking things up a little bit, and I think that we probably will come back into a great market. But I think right now, while things are shifting, readjusting, and the Fed is in the tough position it's in, I think it's highly likely these names continue to dip. And again, this might not be the video people want to see, but if you're looking at it from a stock perspective in a long-term buying opportunity, then dude, you should be enthusiastic. You should welcome the dip. The dip should be everything that you want to see in the market. So again, when I look at, structurally the SPY, breaking the 100 MA was tough to see, right? The 100 just held it for basically 2 years, as you can see, right? And, now, everyone seems like a genius when you're moving in one direction, but things flip, and then everyone's like, oh crap, things have changed. So what I'm looking at, what I'm watching for, The last thing I'll say here too on the SPY that I think is very interesting. I wouldn't really call this a triple top. I mean, you can call this whatever you want, but clear resistance, right? At these levels here, it's basically 610, 605. The big level that I'm watching at this point is this kind of low established right here at 575, 576 now. You know, the previous level was here at 585, 586, but now you're struggling here. Now you held above that to end the week, but I mean, this is tough. I mean, you start holding below this. I mean, you're looking to break back below 560, and this could be real painful for the market. And again, you know, NASDAQ, the Dow, you know, we've seen the struggles. We've seen the pain. We're sitting at major supports now, but you sat here for a week on Dow. Like, you sat on support for a week. Do you hold it? That's the question. You're making lower highs. You're not seeing strength. You're not seeing buyers get off this. And, you know, NASDAQ is just going straight down at this point, just clearly breaking down. So, again, keep your head on a swivel. The buying opportunity is there for the long term. Options, not quite. And that's how I view the market as a whole. If you have questions, comment down below. See you next time.